What's up guys, Justin here with the CGEssentials.com, back with another Blender architectural modeling tutorial for you. So in today's video we're going to continue our series on creating our floor plan inside of our model inside of Blender. So today we're going to talk about a few different ways that we can apply materials to this model. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. Alright, so some of these settings are going to be set inside of the Archipack add-on. We're also going to talk about another way to apply planes or create the geometry for our floors in here so that we can just go in and directly apply a material as well. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to take a look at the way that Archipack creates our different elements. So for example, and we talked about this a little bit last week, if you look at our flooring, what the flooring is currently doing is when you select this, and I'm going to tap the N key, and I'm going to look at the Archipack menu, what it's doing is it's applying materials based on your material sets right here. And basically all that means is that it's coming in here and it's applying a named material based on what you have set in this drop down. So notice, for example, if I was to change the default material inside of my Archipack material, what this is going to do is it's going to go in and it's going to apply a different material to it. And notice how there's nothing in here right now. That's because we're using the free version of Archipack and it doesn't come with materials applied to this. And so what we need to do is we need to take a look at this and figure out how to apply materials to this face. So there's a few different ways to do this. So the first is if you tab into edit mode and select one of these, what you're going to notice is whenever you select these and you go inside of your material properties window right here, you can see that what this is doing is this is basically this is applied a material randomly to each one of these, right? So some of these have alternate 1, some of them have floor tiles alternate 6, things like that. And notice how there's nothing applied to these right now, but what you can do is you can go in and you can set a color of one of the materials, and it's really easy to do that just by selecting these. So you can just click on this and then change the diffuse color of this to something like this. So you can see how I can use this in order to apply a color to this. And so we could go through and we could apply a color to each one of these, kind of like this. You have to be a little bit careful that you're getting kind of the more brown colors in here rather than anything warmer, but you could come in here and apply a material to each one of these if you wanted to. So that is one way to add materials to this, is to do that. So that is one thing that you can do, is you can come in here and you can apply colors to each one of these. So another thing you could do is the Pro version of Archipack actually comes with some materials built into it. So if I was to turn the Pro version on, and that is a paid version by the way, and then you can link that to a folder containing some materials. Well, what that one does is that one actually brings these in with some materials already applied to them. So if I was to do a Shift A and bring these in with the paid version, so if I was to bring a floor in, and let's say we were to bring the windmill tile in here. So if I was to move this over, you can see how the windmill tile actually comes with a material applied to this. And so this one actually comes with some materials already applied to it. And you can also, there's a few different options in here. So there's like a walnut texture like this, and some other wood textures that are built in as well. So you can use this in order to select that. So if you were to buy the Pro version of this, then you do get some materials built in. And so that can be really helpful when dealing with these individual tiles. It gets kind of tricky trying to apply a custom material. It's doable, but you get into some kind of weird UV mapping stuff. My recommendation for that would be, if you're going to do that, if you're going to apply a custom material, I would recommend instead of creating your floors with the floor function, I would just create them with a plane. And so all you have to do in order to do that, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that menu, is I'm just going to do a Shift A, add a plane, and then we'll just align this right here. And so we'll just tab into edit mode and then go to a top-down view, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this and I'm going to make this plane kind of match the shape of the room. So instead of using the Archipack floor, I'm just going to use a simple plane. And notice I'm using the extrude function right here in order to align this. I still have snapping turned on, but a lot of the times it's going to be a lot easier in order to just create a simple plane like this and apply material to this. Otherwise, the UV mapping gets a little bit weird with the Archipack objects just because there's different materials applied to each one of the tabs. And so what we're going to do in this situation is we're going to go into our shading editor and we're just going to add a new material. And so for this one, we're just going to go down, we're going to click on New. In order to add that, we're going to select our shader, and we're going to do a Control-Shift-T. I have Node Wrangler enabled, so that's going to allow me to do this. I will link to a video about that in the notes down below. This basically makes it easier for us to set up a principled shader. But we're just going to select all of these, and then we're just going to apply this material to this face. And notice how you're getting a little bit of stretching in here. That's because our UV mapping isn't quite set up right. So all we're going to do is go into the UV editing tab, and we're just going to project our UVs from the view. So just from a straight top-down view, this is the easiest way to do this. So I'm just going to select these three faces, go to UV, and click on Project from View. And notice how what that did is that set up our UVs so that now we can adjust the size of our material and how it aligns to this face. So notice how I can select all of these and scale them up, and the material on the right hand side is adjusting size based on how we adjust this in the left hand window. So we can use this in order to set up this material on this face. It's just going to be a lot easier than messing around with the ArchiMesh objects or the ArchiPack objects, especially when we're setting up things like floors. All right, so let's say that we wanted to change the color of our walls. And so if we look at the way that ArchiPack creates our walls, basically what it does is it takes a wall material and it applies it to this object. But notice how these walls are being created with a modifier. So basically what this does is when you draw your wall in here, it uses a modifier in order to give it thickness. And so because of that, it gets a little bit tricky with materials, right? So you can't just like tab into this and just select either face. So like for example, on this wall, I'm in edit mode, and notice how I can only select this one face, right? I can't select both faces. I can only select the one face. And so the reason for that is because this is really just a singular face in here with a modifier creating our wall thickness. And so basically what this does is if you go in and look at your materials, what this does is this creates an object with a material on the inside, which is going to be this face right here, and a material on the outside, which is going to be this face right here. And by default, these all get this material applied to it, and you can add a color just by going in and changing the color inside of your surface right here. So you can adjust this so that it has a color associated with it. Notice how that only changed the color on one side of my walls. So that's going to be the front side, which is the side you can select inside of edit mode. That also gives you another material in here with an outside face. So if I wanted to make these something else, I could click and drag this down. Notice how what this is doing is this is applying that material to the outside face. And so what you can do is, let's say that you have a couple walls that you want them to be a different color. Well, what you can do is you can click on the walls, you can tab into edit mode, and you can select that wall. Then you can scroll down and you can assign one of these alternate materials. Notice how when I assign an alternate material to this wall, what's happening on the back side is it also removes this outside wall material. And what it does is it applies this alternate to material. I'm not 100% sure how this is being achieved because these walls are being created with a modifier. So I'm sure somebody here knows the answer to that. I'm not 100% clear on it. All you really need to know is in a situation like this one, let's say you have a few walls that you want to have a different color associated with them, you can assign this separate alternate color to it. So let's say we wanted this to be like a blue wall, and then let's say we wanted it to have something different on the back side. Well, we could just adjust that and change the color in here as well. So notice how I can use this in order to change it, make a different color on the back side of this wall. So in addition, you could also use nodes in order to set up actual materials that would go in these locations as well. But this should give you a pretty good idea of how to start applying materials to your floors and walls inside of your models. So that's kind of an overview of a few different ways you can add materials. I'm interested to see if you guys have any questions. We can talk a little bit more in depth in a future video. I'm just trying to give you an overview inside of the framework of using this add-on, or if you don't want to use this add-on, how you can apply materials quickly inside of Blender. But leave a comment below, let me know what you thought. If you have any questions about this, if you have any other methods you're using to apply materials, I just love having that conversation with you guys. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new Blender content every week. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.